United Nations mission in Hodeidah says its convoy was hit by a landmine while conducting work visit in the city. Tim Luther King intensifies diplomatic efforts to push for extending the truce. Houthis continue to loot private properties in Hodeidah and terrorize civilians. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Injil Zaazid. The head of UNMEHA, Michael Pierre, survived a mine explosion while he was passing through the city of Hodeidah. The sources stated that he was to attend the process of destroying a large amount of explosives, but a mine exploded while his car was passing by, and a number of guards belonging to the convoy were killed and wounded. The Foreign Affairs Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives is organizing an open hearing on humanitarian and political situation in Yemen. The U.S. Special Envoy for Yemen, Tim Luther King, said that there is an urgency to condemn the Houthi recent attacks and to push the Yemeni parties for a comprehensive peace process. Luther King added that the renewal of the truce failed in the last moment after the Houthis asked the government to transfer its revenues to pay the salaries of Houthi fighters. The U.S. envoy met with the Saudi ambassador to Yemen. They discussed the situation in Yemen in the current situation. This report has more details.
The U.S. Special Envoy for Yemen, Tim Luther King, is pushing on relentless regional action to back the United Nations envoy's efforts to renew the truce in the war-torn nation. Luther King reviewed the latest developments with Saudi officials. The U.S. diplomats' discussion with the Saudi officials followed talks they had held with Omani officials in Muscat. The Saudi officials explained to Luther King that the problem remains in the Houthis' militias' inflexibility and the rejection of the United Nations envoy's proposal for extending the truce, which would improve the lives of Yemenis. On top of their rejection of ceasefire proposals, Houthis have insisted on carrying out terrorist attacks against ports, civilian economic infrastructure, and international energy and navigation routes. The Saudi officials mentioned that they and Luther King had reviewed Saudi and the U.S. backing of peace efforts in Yemen and alleviating the suffering of the Yemenis. The two officials also discussed support for the efforts of the United Nations envoy to Yemen and their proposal to extend the truce to reach a comprehensive political solution in Yemen and start the country's development and reconstruction process. U.S.-Saudi discussions come at a time when the Iran-backed Houthi militias continue to warn that they would carry out more attacks. The armed group has also escalated its attacks on Ma'rib and Taiz. Meanwhile, the internationally recognized Yemeni government confirmed that it's continuing to take measures to punish Houthi leaders and entities that support them. The government reaffirmed that its punishment of Houthis, which is designated as a terrorist group, will not negatively affect humanitarian work. Speaking at a meeting on the sideline of Mediterranean Dialogues Forum in Rome, Italy, Yemen's Foreign Minister Ahmed Awad bin Mubarak said that Houthi using Iran-made drones to attack Yemen's economic infrastructure and oil ports presents a threat to regional peace and security. Mubarak added that the attacks also challenge ongoing peacemaking efforts in Yemen. He stressed that the government is continuing to take deterrent measures to protect the capability of Yemeni people, commensurate with the National Defense Council's classification of the Houthis militia as a terrorist organization. Mubarak stressed during a meeting with his country's ambassadors to Europe the need for the international community to adopt a supportive stance for the Council's decision to blacklist Houthis and to reject the group's terrorist attacks on Yemeni oil ports.
The UN reported that there is a significant funding gap in the Yemen Humanitarian Response Plan. The United Nations spokesperson said that the Humanitarian Response Plan for Yemen is funded by only 55%, which represents a large gap for relief operations that support 10.5 million people. The number of displaced families decreased by 18.5% during last November compared to the previous month, 2022. The Executive Unit for Displaced Persons Camp Management said that number of families who were displaced during the period from last November reached 485 families. Prime Minister received in Aden the head of European Union mission and European ambassadors. They consulted about the dangerous developments posed by the Houthi militia, targeting vital facilities and international navigation. On the same line, the governor of Aden discussed with the European Union ambassadors support for Yemen. The governor reviewed efforts to secure and develop Aden while preparing to receive embassies and raising the administrative level. Houthi terrorist group is committing a grave violation of the rights of citizens under their control by looting their lands. More is in the following report.
An armed gang backed by the Houthi leaders tried to loot the lands of citizens in Hodeidah Governorate, Western Yemen, as part of the militia's plan to rob citizens from their property. The Houthi terrorist group is committing a grave violation of the property rights of citizens living under their control. They rob the lands of people under the pretext of public interests and military necessities, emphasizing that the expropriation of land and private property and the imposition of restrictive conditions that impede citizens' enjoyment of the right to build and improve their property under the pretext of the public interests, as well as the establishment of military sites, constitute a grave violation of basic rights guaranteed by international and Yemeni law alike. The competition over land ownership in the areas controlled by the Houthi terrorist group has increased since the Houthis seized the capital Sana'a, in addition to the emergence of a conflict of interests between its leaders. They took over the lands that were owned by the state, which has had a significant impact on civilians and threatens thousands with forced displacement. A human rights organization pointed out that the Houthi militia is still working to significantly intensify its control over the real estate market and to facilitate the tasks of its leaders in seizing state-owned lands, and lands owned by the endowment ministry in the areas under its control. The organization also confirmed that it received a lot of complaints related to the disposition of property and the deprivation of dozens of citizens from building, in addition to the refusal of Houthi armed men in Sana'a to pay the rent of apartments they rented from their owners, or even to leave them for a long time. People appealed to redress the injustice against them and to save them from the campaigns imposed on them by the militia to force them to pay exorbitant sums of money under various names and pretexts. The organization further highlighted that its team met with a number of victims and affected people whose lands were confiscated and were prevented from building, in addition to testimonies that proved the disposition of entire lands in order to establish military sites, which the organization confirmed that it is a flagrant and unacceptable violation and a clear attack by the Houthi militia on guaranteed and protected rights.
Gunmen assassinated a commander in Mecca. Local sources stated that unidentified gunmen shot Colonel Sadiq al-Qadi, who is a staff member of the Coast Guards in Mecca. The shooting took place in Hais, where gunmen opened fire, which resulted in his killing. Hadramaut Governorate celebrated the World Day of Volunteering. The celebration included organizing a number of activities that embodied peace and goodness. This report has more on this.
In conjunction with the activities of the International Volunteer Day, the Volunteers Foundation in Hadramaut launched the International Volunteering Exhibition, in which more than 120 volunteers participated. Like other young people initiating volunteer work, Muhammad participated in the International Volunteer Day exhibition in advance of making voluntary self-efforts in the Medical Laboratories Department, specifically in the field of testing diabetes, hypertension, and blood tests.
في اليوم العالمي للتطوع مشاركتي في قسم المختبرات الطبية في مجال الفحص.
In the World Volunteer Day, I participate in testing for diabetes, hypertension and blood test. The first day we tested about 350 to 400 volunteers, and we took their numbers so that we can call them when we need them to volunteer.
The exhibition, which carried the slogan of volunteering a message of peace, represented a purposeful opportunity to provide citizens with many experiences and skills and to learn about the various local and international Islamic and civilized cultures.
The exhibition includes all cultures around the world, and the main ones are the Islamic and Yemeni culture. The Yemeni culture includes Hadrami, Suqatri, Ta'azzi, San'ani, and Shabwani. There were also cultures from other countries like Palestine, Egypt, Iraq, and Morocco.
من ضمن فعاليات اليوم العالمي للتطوع.
The exhibition is one activity of the World Day of Volunteering that is organized under the slogan of volunteering is the message of peace. There are many items and subjects in this exhibition. Many talents have been presented in the exhibition that showcases a number of customs and traditions, whether in Yemen or the neighboring countries. There are many talents such as drawing, calligraphy, and photo taking. Its mission is to group youth and make them knowledgeable about other traditions in other areas. There are 120 participants in the exhibition.
The exhibition included the pillars of cultures, communities, art, mission, health, and various talents within voluntary positive gestures aimed at developing skills and encouraging the youth to use them. Voluntary work is important and very beneficial for everyone in the society.
Coming next in the news. In the United Kingdom, British Yemeni woman Ibtisam Mohammed wins Labour candidacy.
ننشر نديمة من الغيل والغيلة تبعيد، كنا ندي بالدواب نعبي ماء وترجعنا. ننزل الساعة 5 رجعنا الساعة 9.
ما يجي لنا ظهر لأن زحمة ما حد ليه يخلي الجهل يغرف وإحنا تعبنا زيادة.
وكنت أحس صدري يوجعني وعز قدرك ركبي يوجعيني.
كنا ما نستخدم حتى نغسل أولادنا إلا يعني بأيام معدودة.
كنت أغيب على المدرسة لأن كنت أروح الديمة.
حتى وإن كان يجي الأمطار تروح هدر لأنه ما في معي خزانة.
الوقت نشتري ب30,000 دي معها استهلاك ما يغلقش معها الشهر.
لا راح تطلب الله ولا أي حاجة، عبلا كل شغلك الماء.
Welcome back. The first British woman of Yemeni origin won the highest vote within the British Labour Party, which qualifies her to be a candidate for the party in the upcoming parliamentary elections. More on Ibtisam's story is within this report.
British Yemeni councillor and human rights lawyer Ibtisam Mohammed has been selected as Labour's parliamentary candidate for the Sheffield Central constituency. The win means she will be able to stand for Labour at the next general election in 2024 to become a member of British Parliament. She thanked every member in the Sheffield who has supported her, and she reassured everyone in Sheffield Central that she will always use her voice to speak up for them, demand better and fight for a fairer and greener future. Ibtisam may stand a good chance at general election victory, as Labour has fared well in the Sheffield Central constituency in past votes. In 2019, just over 2/3 of votes cast in the constituency were in favour of Labour candidate and current MP Paul Blomfield. Blomfield has held the seat as a Labour MP since May 2010, but announced earlier this year that he would stand down at the next general election. The road to victory was far from easy for Ibtisam, who said she and other candidates had faced huge amounts of abuse, racism, or transphobia during the campaign. It has been very difficult for her to go through this and continue to run positive campaigns, yet she was able to manage it. While on the campaign trail, Ibtisam spoke of her upbringing as the daughter of a Yemeni steel worker and said she had experienced the pain and poverty caused by the tourists. Ibtisam spoke to her voters saying, "I know how tough life can be. It's why everything I've ever done has been to make sure no one is held back by a lack of opportunity. I'm from Sheffield, I'm experienced, and I'm ready to serve you as your Labour MP."
A government report revealed that the number of employees appointed to the diplomatic corps has increased without actual assignment. The report added that most of the employees appointed in the technical have ended their term period, which is set at 4 years, and some have exceeded the period. The Houthi militia began to apply the Code of Professional Conduct to state employees in areas under their control. Sources reported that the militia first started with employees in the so-called presidential office. According to the source, the militia will soon circulate the code to all state institutions in its areas of control. Morocco made a historic win in the Qatar World Cup 2022 over Spain with penalty kicks. Morocco is the last Arab team in the World Cup, and it secured a place in quarterfinals. Here is a reminder of the main headlines. United Nations mission in Hodeidah says its convoy was hit by landmine while conducting work visit in the city. Tim Luther King intensifies diplomatic efforts to push for extending the truce. Houthis continue to loot private properties in Hodeidah and terrorize civilians. This is the end of the news. It was Angel Zazi, and thank you for watching.